Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John Ahr and I'm your instructor. In a previous video, I showed you how to use your scrap silver in a fusing process that would create some very artistic pendants. Well, the response to that video was so dramatically positive that I decided to try and find another way to expand upon that technique. And guess what? I came up with something new for you. I figured out how to do the fusing in a dimensional way. Now the pieces over here, you can see they've got a slight curve to them. And this curve was achieved without any kind of pressure being applied to the material that might have given it a dimple or a dent. Also, I used the same technique along with some solder to give these jump rings a beautiful curvaceous look. Now, all of this was achieved using scrap material. Yeah, I've got some scrap jump rings. You should too. You should be cutting a bunch of them. Anyway, these pieces, like I said, were fused and soldered. Now, I used a torch like this one. This is a MAP gas torch. You can get it at any hardware store, and this one has a built-in ignition system. Also, I used pliers to pre-shape the scrap material before I fused it together. I wanted to give everything its best chance of looking pretty. I also used some paste solder. This is solder and flux mixed together in a syringe. Really convenient to use. Check out our video on that. I've also got a pair of diagonal cutters and a pair of shears. These things are going to be used to clip wire and to cut down material. Now you need balls to do this, and I've got a ping pong ball and a little rubber ball that came out of a gumball machine, so it cost me about $1. I've got some binding wire, and this looks fancy. It is a mixing knife, and the mixing knife is used in conjunction with this. This is a rubber mixing bowl that's used to mix investment for casting, and this is a container of casting investment. Kind of heavy. It's going to cost in the shipping. I'm also using some styrofoam cups. I know that they're not the greatest thing for the environment, but they're easy to poke holes in. Now, this project is going to require some safety equipment. You should work with good ventilation, and for sure, when you're handling the dry investment, you need to wear a mask. And it never hurts to put on your eye protection so you stay safe. Okay, let me clear the deck here, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, I've set up everything, so we're ready to start. The first thing I want to talk about is how you make the mold for this project. Well, the first thing is I took one of these styrofoam cups and I cut it down. I didn't need the full height of the cup. Then what I did is I poked lengths of binding wire into my rubber ball and secured it in the cup by poking through the walls of the cup. And you can see it's not moving. I'm doing this because I don't want that rubber ball to just float on the top surface of the investment. I want it to actually sink in and make a concavity that I can work with. Okay, I've pre-measured water and investment. And remember, like I said, you do want to use some sort of respirator or dust mask when you're working with investment. You do not want to breathe this material in. Once it's hydrated, though, you can remove your mask and just work it as you normally do. Okay, so in the sake of safety, I'm going to put on a mask. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, so you always want to mix your investment into water. So I will put the water in first. Okay. And next, I'm just going to drop in my investment. Now, there are instructions on the side of the investment container that tell you the proper proportions for mixing. So once the material is hydrated, what you're going for is sort of a white slurry that's like a loose pancake batter. You want to get all the lumps and bumps out of it. Okay. So once your material is thoroughly mixed, and the great thing about this container, let me take this off so you can hear me. The great thing about using this rubber container is that the walls of the container are pliable, so it's really easy to just pour your material into your mold. Now, when you're done mixing, what you can do is just set your mold aside, and you'll let that mold dry for about 24 hours. Now remember, when these types of investment molds are used in lost wax casting, the molds are actually heated in a kiln, but they start to break down when you apply heat to them. So what you might want to do is break the mold out of the cup, or the molded material out of the cup, and remove the ball and let it dry in the sun for maybe another day or so. Okay, so let me show you what I got. Here's one that I've already used. Now this one I used along with my jump rings and my paste solder, and I carefully, using tweezers like this, just laid all my jump rings in and carefully squirted the paste solder on all the joints and seams, and then just heated it in order to create this great three-dimensional piece. Okay? Now, there's another way of working. I created this by pouring investment over a silicone mold of the ball. So I could work on top of that if you prefer to take that direction. Now, here are two other molds that I prepared. One being made from the small ball and one from the larger ping pong ball. So I'm going to work with this one. Now, you'll notice that it has a lot of material underneath the deepest part of the depression in the top. That's because I want to have a little bit of a buffer from the heat so it won't burn the top of my bench. But it's always good to put it on a surface that's going to protect the top of your bench. Okay, now I'm ready to insert my scrap material. Now in the other video, I used flux when I put the pieces into or onto my block to start to fuse them. But in this case, I don't want to apply any moisture to the surface of the investment piece. I don't want it to break down. So I'm just going to put these pieces in dry. The process will still work. So what I would say is artfully arrange your pieces in your mold, and then you're going to apply your heat. So, you know, it's kind of a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get on the top, but if you work with it a little bit and try to imagine what the other surface might look like, you'll probably end up with a great product. Now, you don't want to melt the pieces in here. It's not like you're melting it down for casting. You just want to fuse them together. And you can see I've pre-bent a lot of these things, so I got a lot of fun shapes and squiggles, and I have jump rings out of weird wires and whatnot. And okay, there's a couple more pieces, and I'm just going to drop them in. Serendipity, see what I get. All right, I'm ready to light my torch. Remember, we're just fusing, so try to apply the heat as evenly as possible. And that's the great thing about having this on top of the Lazy Susan. I can move it around a bit. So we want those liquid surfaces to attach to one another. Okay, we're done. Let's let it cool down for a little bit. We've given it a little bit of time to cool, and now for the official unveiling. It's still a little warm, so I have to be careful. Now, I'll be honest, I put it back into the hot mold, but I took it out and I cleaned it up a little bit. I pickled it and brass brushed, but there it is, and it's pretty fantastic. Now, a piece like this may not appeal to all of your clients, but some of them will appreciate the schizophrenic, serendipitous look of this piece that just combines a bunch of your scrap into something really artistic and wonderful. And you could either turn this into something like, say, a brooch, or maybe these smaller pieces could actually become buttons. Or if you watched our split shank ring video, maybe you can make a split shank ring by attaching one to the top surface. I hope you liked this video. There are plenty more like it on the onlinejewelryacademy.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can support us through fan funding through Patreon. Thanks for watching.